Of this discussion, we're eagerly waiting for Jakoyo Midiwo to join us this morning. But allow me to introduce to you also Senator Aaron Cheruiyot, the Senator of Kericho, and Herman Manyora, who is our resident political analyst. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning. Good morning.
It seems the holidaying spirit of today, Jamhuri Day, has taken all of us. a bit, slow on the uptick. People promised to really come. They have not really come. But we just want to begin on a very somber note on what really happened yesterday with the ruling. And of course, looking at all the dailies, we see that is the biggest story as from yesterday. Of course, we were expecting the full judgment, nothing diametrically different from what the court announced. What were, you take away from that particular, judgment yesterday? Aaron Cheruiyot.
Well, thank you, Debarl, and very good morning. It was, I took time to listen to the judges read out in full the contents and the details of what led them to arrive to the decision that they arrived 20 days ago, where they confirmed the win of President Uhuru and said he was validly elected. And it was quite interesting listening to the talking points that all the 6 judges that were appeared before the court on that day did say. Of course, the major talking point being how the pulling out or the withdrawal of candidate Raila Odinga did affect or weaken the case of the opposition, and whether we had sufficient law in place to cater for such a situation. And I think all the judges came out and unequivocally to confirm and say to the country that as laws are currently, we do not have any law that will say on such an occasion you will have to call for a fresh nomination and therefore throw the country into a continuous election cycle. To me, this is really a no-brainer and not anything that should even have been written as part of the laws in our constitution. Because if you have a situation where every time, for one reason or the other, a candidate feels they are not properly prepared for election and they pull out, you're forced to go into another fresh batch of round of nomination, then we will never have elections in our country, because what people will be doing is that every 2 or 3 days, before an election, they will just pull out and you're forced into a fresh batch. Of course, another major talking point was on what actually happens when violence stops people from turning out to vote and do such kind of things. And what the judges said, and you have read in one of the dailies,
yes,
that according to Justice Ndung'u, she says neither the IEBC nor the state can bear responsibility for failure of voters to cast the ballot based on violence caused by unknown private and or political actors, which is a big talking point also, because it has sent a very chilling message to us, the politicians, to know that in future you cannot use violence as a means of justifying a stop of an election. The election will continue, and whoever will have emerged as a victor will be declared, and life will move on. So there are so many talking points. There were sticky issues. Of course, it's always interesting and refreshing listening to Justice Professor JB, when he went into a long sort of array of issues that were presented before the court, and kept on telling the petitioners, instead of coming before this court and tabling evidence and saying this is why we feel this election should have been cancelled, you came and invited us into political issues. Unfortunately, we are a court that is governed by the rule of law, and we are non-partisan in terms of election issues.
Let's say from Herman Manyora. Good morning.
Morning to you, Debarl. For non-lawyers like Manyora and the rest, the interest ends with the determination. So once a matter is determined, we leave it to lawyers, both practicing lawyers and academics in that line.
Yes.
But I hold it to be true that whereas the gymnastics in court are about legal issues, the general picture should resonate with the thinking of the average man. So that you may use all procedural and legal considerations to determine a case, but it must not be such that an average person in the street can't follow what you are saying, then that law is not for the public. It's your own law as lawyers and judges. And therefore, for me as a layman, when I look at the issues that were there for determination, they were very clear. And I think the court has found itself in a very difficult situation, because there were specific, very clear questions to be determined on nomination, on fresh, meaning of fresh election, on the withdrawal of Raila, on the 25 constitution. Now, the court has put the country in a situation where it will be very difficult to wriggle from. Let me just quickly go through one or two of them. When one day somebody from the so-called NASA, today is NASA, next time it will be something else, but basically the same, the configuration in which Jakoyo Midiwo, where Jakoyo Midiwo belongs. What will stop them when they are in power wanting to get another term, to cause chaos in the strongly Jubilee zones? Then they don't vote. You will not use that to say this election, you can nullify it. Because if you are in power, you can cause mayhem in Kiambu, in Nyeri, in Muranga, and so on. Then you just win. You're the NASA person. 20, 30, 50 years from now. You get what I'm saying? When they say there is no provision in the Constitution about withdrawal of a candidate, and these are judges speaking, learned men and women. Where are these learned men and women in 2013 when they tell the country that if somebody withdraws, and it's on the basis of that Supreme Court decision, it may be an obiter, but it is a Supreme Court direction and thinking and decision that then Raila uses to withdraw from the election. A clear legal provision, whatever you call it. And then you turn around and say it was inconsequential. You see what I'm talking about? Look, when we have nomination, it is as much an issue of Jubilee as it is an issue of the candidate Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. You get it? So the party, a candidate may choose not to participate in an election, a repeat election.
Yes.
You see?
Yes.
But the party still intends to field the candidate because it has that right. Actually, between the two, the party is higher than the individual. So there's a repeat election. A candidate perhaps has been bought. In Kenya, people are bought, we are told, and we know it to be true. So he's bought and he doesn't want to contest. But the party wants to field somebody. That has been sealed by the Supreme Court. Because they say they are going to base themselves on the nominations that had been done before the general election. So you see now you are looking out a party. And therefore I'm saying, I don't envy the Supreme Court. They found themselves in a very difficult situation. But they have set a precedent that could be very damaging in future. And finally, I have said this. Decisions of who becomes the President of the Republic of Kenya, and indeed I think any other country, ought to be made by the voter. And not the Supreme Court. I have said this in one of the videos I've released on my YouTube. I say, let Kenyan voters decide their president, not the Supreme Court. But how does that happen? How would that work?
Yes.
It will only work if the Supreme Court discourages Kenyans from going to the Supreme Court. Why and how? By making very firm and clear decisions brought before it. You get it?
Yes.
And by ensuring that according to the law in the manner prescribed and contemplated by the law, those who mess an election face the music. The Supreme Court is silent on people who didn't obey the orders, their own orders. The Supreme Court is silent. The Supreme Court tells us they nullify President Uhuru's election. To nullify an election is not a small matter, Debarl. You nullify the president's election. And then just, you can't tell us who was responsible for this. Identify those people, start the process of ensuring they pay for it as you nullify somebody's election. I'm telling you, nobody will go to court in future. But the way it is, we have seen nothing.
All right,
in the next election, there could be 100 people in court.
All right, let's say from Jakoyo Midiwo. So far, what have you learned from this particular whole exercise? Going to the Supreme Court, nullification of the presidential, election, and then, of course, we had the presidential election again on October the 26th, and Uhuru Kenyatta garnered it. Have we, as a country, learned anything? Have we gotten any reforms from IBC as far as that is concerned? All this exercise was just, batting our heads on the wall, exercise in futility? We've achieved nothing as a country?
Yes, exercise in futility. The day I saw Supreme Court saying we did not find footprints or fingerprints in the botched elections, I knew Kenya was headed for chaos. It's nice to listen to the good professor here say what he's saying. But the truth is, there were no elections. They are all sham. We are in a situation where something else would help our country. Something else. When you see Parliament passing a law, my good senator here, he's saying everything. He's only talking about the good side. But about how would you not find IEBC culpable and then pass a law to sanitize them? You know you are in chaos. When people make law, they don't follow law, then they eventually make a bad law to make them look good. I think there's a problem in our country. It's so inherent. You know, it couldn't have happened in 2007, 2013, 2017, twice in 2017. And we seem to imagine that things are just okay. Things are not okay. I choose not to want to listen to the Supreme Court because I don't think there is a court to speak of. One of the judges, I was told, the day they were making the ruling of the last case, which was for the 26th of October, one of the judges was playing golf at Karen Country Club. Another judge plays sick. You know, if you look at chapter 6 of our constitution, another one says, Njoki, my friend, she's a very close friend of mine, she can't catch a flight. On duty day, it's a criminal act in any other country. In any other country, Supreme Court would today only have Judge Lenaola and Justice Maraga as innocent judges. The rest are criminals. And I dare say that on TV early in the morning.
That is harsh.
No, but it's not up to you to say what I'm saying is harsh,
Okay.
Professor.
Yes, okay.
I'm just telling you. Chapter 6, you know, uphold the dignity of the office. You must uphold the dignity of your office if you're a public servant. These are people on payroll. Even when they lose a flight, they miss a flight, even when they are playing golf. But so that, where are we as a nation? I think we need to be talking on the way forward. And I think the way forward myself is to talk our way out of it.
Talk our way out of it.
Talk our way out of it.
Okay. So from your own estimation, this particular judgment or the election as the judgment from Chief Justice Maraga, he read out, he said it met the constitutional threshold. You think he did? You know,
Debarl,
very briefly, so that we wind up.
Very briefly, yes. I think it truly did, because Jakoyo, and one of the things we must learn if we want to move our country forward is we must learn to strengthen our institutions and not build them upon individuals only. The Supreme Court is a properly properly organized constitutional body that we ought to respect it. And that is why on 1st of September, when they gave that earth-moving ruling, President Uhuru Kenyatta, despite him being president of Kenya and feeling big about it, he was humble enough to say, well, who am I? If this body that has been given all these powers has said that we go back to a fresh election, who am I to say no? And Jakoyo and the people who come from his side of the coalition they celebrated and hailed the ruling. They said the judges were great. When we were going after the judges, they kept on telling us, respect this institution. And true enough, we heeded to their call and said, okay, we respect this institution. Let us face the election. Then when they give a verdict that is not favorable to them, they now become criminals. They now become people that are not of good character. I mean, this flip-floppancy that you get from the kind of leadership that you get with NASA is what is not good for the country. We must learn to live by our words and be honorable people. When rulings are made that are in our favor, we must celebrate them. When rulings are made that are not in our favor, we must learn to take defeat with humility and say,
Jakoyo, you want to butt in very briefly so that we want to put
but the ones who call the judges' name, they call judges all kinds of names. They were called hooligans. They were called criminals. They were called, when I saw the president, something which I think Babu Owino talked about, the young man, and he was taken to all kinds of prison cells. When he reacted to the president, when the president was at Bama Market, the names he called the justices, it was on the same day of the ruling. It was in the evening at 6 p.m. So when you say we in NASA, by the way, I was an independent candidate. It's just so you... No,
an independent NASA candidate.
An independent NASA candidate.
Your poster had Raila's photo up there.
No,
an independent NASA candidate. That is an oxymoron.
But my poster would always have Raila's picture, even in silence.
Yeah.
But let me tell you this. When you in Jubilee, the day of what you call earth-moving ruling, when it happened, you pretended it was okay. Until 2-3 hours later, it hit you that you had stolen elections. Let me just tell you something, my good senator. You went back to an election on the 26th. You stole from yourselves. Then what Professor Manyora has said here, he has listed the things which went wrong on the 26th of October.
Which have now been determined by the courts.
Under duress. Under duress.
Well, those are things you can't prove here.
3.6, I saw Justice Baraga ask. 3.6 million people went through the KEMS kits. 350 voted manually. Where did the rest come from? How did you get 7.6 million people? Even if you got the 7.6 million people, where are the 12 million Kenyans who are registered voters? It means you are a minority government. That is what it means. And I mean, accept it so that we can talk our way out of the quagmire. That is just the reality. No. If you don't accept that, you just know that because Debarl said here last week, just one sentence. We must agree as a people to figure out how we want to live together or figure out how we want to live separately, peacefully. The statement the senator said that the people who come from where they come from, that means me and Manyora.
No.
But now,
I'm Jubilee.
I just had,
You didn't understand what I said.
I said, Jubilee by family.
I need to let him clarify.
I said, what I said to you, Jakoyo, is that the people who come from his side of the political divide, it has nothing to do with your region.
All right.
Okay. Let's say I apologize.
Yeah.
If that's what you meant, I apologize.
Yeah. Herman Manyora is always on the side that he thinks, where the government is, if it's Jubilee, he wants to be in Jubilee.
No, the family. Yes.
So today you're the Jubilee side.
I have family that is Jubilee and NASA. In between, I belong anywhere. For now, let me belong to Jubilee. They could give me a job. They are dishing jobs. Senator, please, put in my wife.
You may not be loyal.
You always use this podium to try and position yourself to get...
the bar, blame game. These are things that politicians are used to. When the ruling goes their way, they celebrate and so on and so forth. But the truth must be said that something is not right with our politics. The judiciary, again, there is a problem. Because as a layman, if you looked at what happened on the election of 8th of August, and then you look at what happened on the 26th of October, you see on the 8th of October, I was in Kericho, Senator, when the ruling was being delivered. Yeah? There's that hotel immediately after Kericho TTC on the left. I don't know what it's
called T Hotel.
Yeah, good. I was right there when the ruling was being, the determination was being made on the 1st of September, I think. And we had to wait. Of course, the moment I had apologies, certain lawyers were not in court, and the opening remarks of Maraga, I knew. But at least we had to wait until that day to know where the case would go. It could go either way. It was, but this one of 26th, honestly, even a layman knew there was no election on 26th. It was a farce. So that's why I say I don't envy the judiciary. I think they made a decision that this election cannot be nullified. Now, to justify that decision, I want to look at the entire ruling. I'm not a lawyer. I'll lock myself somewhere. I don't know how long it is. I watched, but I want the entire detailed ruling or judgment to see how they are justifying some of these things. It will be very difficult for them, especially for the future. But that said and done, Cheruiyot, you are a senator and you are a key politician in Jubilee. Let us move towards healing this country. Let us move towards having institutions work. Some of these institutions have received a beating such that unless you do something extra, it will take a miracle to revive them. So you really have a big task ahead of uniting the country and reviving the institutions that are almost dead. I think I have a lot of respect for the judiciary because I know where we came from in 2007 and why we created it.
Right.
So if I see any dent on the judiciary, I'm a little apprehensive. And you must allow me to say, without supporting Jakoyo Midiwo, what happened on the 25th of October in the Supreme Court, 25th of October, is something we would want to forget quickly. It cannot be that judges can fail to come to court. That was bad. They have to find a way of cleaning that. That's a bad dent on the judiciary because there was no justifiable reason why they couldn't constitute a bench.
All right. Yeah. I think that also is a matter in court. We had
somebody I think has gone judicial.
Boy actually moving to court to file that particular.
Yes. Those, yeah. But it was not good.
It was not good.
Going forward, we need, judges at that level, even in America, they make political decisions. And that is why, in the dying days of President Obama, actually he had a whole year. And when Justice Scalia died, of the Supreme Court, Obama nominated somebody, Maryland or something like that. The Republicans told him, you cannot give us a judge of the Supreme Court when you are leaving. He still had a whole year. And that name was never discussed until Trump came on. So they know, because even in America they know, Supreme Courts make political decisions. But in doing so, they must never do things like I said, Cheruiyot, and leave the public behind. Carry the public with you as much as possible.
But
because we need that trust.
In my opinion, Professor, yes, it's only public of a certain political divide. You see, whichever way they would have ruled, they will only have managed to carry half or slightly more than half. So you've got to also understand where the court stands at this very interesting time. To me, I love the court because they pulled the country out of what would have been really a messy situation. They've done what they could have done. Of course, there are things that we can discuss here and there. Let me tell you, let me remind you something, Honorable Jakoyo. So, you know, the same way you have all these allegations that you want to raise against the court and certain judges, even we from the Jubilee extraction of politics, we have certain things that we are not in agreement with. You know, he's come and cast aspersions on certain judges and things like that. We also have issues that we've raised. We've been told before by none other than a judge of the Supreme Court that some of the forms that the judges used to nullify the August 8th election were fake, that the original documents were right there in court. So it depends on which side of the political divide you want to come from.
Okay. Yeah. No. But only one thing, Debarl. When Professor Manyora says it is not right that judges don't show up in court or they fail to constitute a quorum, you must say here, because Kenyans are watching, it is illegal, it is unlawful for a public officer not to follow the Chapter 6 of the Constitution. It's really illegal. It's in our laws. You know, when a judge is playing golf on work day,
were you there with them, Jakoyo, or is it a friend who told you?
But they never showed up in court. Suppose they were just on River Road.
So is it an assumption you're
Is it
writing
an
on?
assumption you're making?
I am telling you,
do you
it's
have
true.
any
It's
evidentiary documents?
Do you want me to
towards us?
mention them by name?
No, please, no.
Okay.
I beg you don't.
No, you can't mention names if you don't have any evidentiary documents to us.
Especially if you are not
Yeah.
there, Jakoyo.
Even if you have, let's not do that.
You know, even if you have, I am, by the way, the particular judge is known to me as a friend.
You know this.
So I will not. I don't want to do that. But what I'm saying, the fact of the matter is, Debarl, they did not show up in court. They embarrassed the Chief Justice. They embarrassed the state. You know, this is a scenario where even on the same day, my friend Matiang'i called for a public holiday. You know, these guys are criminals. Because you call for a public holiday, and the only known public holidays are here in this book. How do you do that? I have not heard anybody from Jubilee say that the cabinet minister was wrong. You know, I want to leave.
Even before the state election, he did it.
I want to believe that it is only fair to live in a country where everybody strives to live within the law.
Yes, but there was nothing illegal. Cabinet secretary has the powers.
Yeah, which powers? You show me. You open your book. The
Constitution.
The Constitution is before you.
Yes.
We don't have any more public holidays than 5 days in a year. So if you want to go beyond that, those things used to happen. Cheruiyot may be forgiven because he was born in the Ndung'u era, or maybe he was not there when we did the Constitution.
It's good to be young.
I can forgive you. I can forgive you.
It's good to be young.
But we used to have days when we could even declare, you know, even during the Kibaki era. Remember when Obama was elected? We declared a few days holiday as Kenyans to celebrate. Those are the things we sought to circumvent when you did the new law.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's move on and also look at the day before us, what we are likely to hear from the president, because we have also the agenda, and I think the Daily Nation has summarized some of that, you know, for us this morning, that the president is likely to address. One will be the general election itself, that has just, you know, we saw it, the October 26th general election. Also, free-day secondary education, the number 2 there. Also, we have unity of purpose for all Kenyans, security, also infrastructural development. I would like you, each of you, maybe to just pick one or two, as we also have to wind up because of time as well. One or two. Let's begin with the general election. I think we discussed largely that general election. That's what we've done. Can we talk about the unity of purpose for all Kenyans? That's very key, even as we're going to this Jamhuri Day as a divided country, so to speak. Today also was a swearing in, so to speak, of NASA, which was also postponed as well. Let's begin with you, Herman Manyora. Unity of purpose for all Kenyans.
You asking what?
Number 3, unity of purpose for all Kenyans. The
Unity
president
of
will
purpose
be
for
addressing that
agenda,
today.
the agenda.
Coming,
You see, this is within the context of what is happening in the country, within the political entity we call Kenya. And whether there's unity, there's security, there is development, whatever it is like a question you want to address, and I choose to go to the national anthem. And then everything else will be covered there. If you look at the national anthem, it begins by asking God, who is the creator of heaven and earth, to bless this land, which he has done. Look at the beautiful land. A nation. We have refused to give him a nation to bless, so there can be no unity. Because if we had a nation, we could have unity. We have chosen to be tribalist and exclusionists. So really, we can't blame God. You cannot talk of unity, Debarl, when a few are eating and the rest are not eating. And this is nothing to do with the tribe. It is, we have a class of those who are eating and a class of those, and it cuts across tribe. foolishly as tribesmen, we think when our men are there, we are eating, but we are not eating. So really, whether you are talking about love, whether you are talking about unity, anything you are talking about, the answers are to be found in the national anthem. And we have failed badly, because even if people are united and they are hungry, because the national anthem says, let there be plenty within our borders.
Right.
We cannot have plenty within our borders with more than 12 million, about 40% of employable people out of job. We cannot have peace and unity in a country where more than half of the population live on less than $1 a day. So in other words, we have a country that has a lot to do to live up to the expectations of the founding fathers of this nation.
All right. Yeah. So we are talking about unity, and yet the president has been very categorical that yes, he will not condone any dialogue, save the dialogue of development. And of course, NASA has been pushing the envelope very hard, saying that yes, we want to have reforms, especially electoral reforms. But now you're training your focus as Jubilee on development matters only.
There's something that...
So how will you foster unity if you have also your stance, and you don't want to roll back on your stance?
Let me tell you something that will be not very right for me to say, because I'm one of them, but because we must always learn to be truthful, I'll say this here, that as politicians in this country from across the political divide, we have sold a lie and made the country believe everybody else believes in it, apart from us. It's only when we sit with Jakoyo Midiwo and not in this studio that we can laugh and giggle about it. And the lie that we have sold out to Kenyans is the fact that we know that it is only when politicians from a certain region or tribe that are in power that the populace from that region where they come from get to benefit and see development. Let me tell you, Debarl, that the struggles of an ordinary voter in Gong, in Gem constituency, which Jakoyo so ably represented in the last 3 parliaments, and the struggles of an ordinary villager in Kiambu, where the president comes from, they are all the same. The tribulations and the challenges of life they face, the president notwithstanding, whether it is Uhuru or Raila, they're the same. They wake up to try and fend for their children, to see whether they can educate them. When they are sick, they should be able to afford medicine. But unfortunately, our national obsession has been who becomes president, who gets elected, who controls state power. Yet we have not been able to ask the critical question and see how is it that this power is able to translate into meaningful change of life to the ordinary voters and all the 45 million of Kenyans. I think it is time that we shift our focus and start asking ourselves very difficult questions and say, what sort of a country are we building? Are we continuing to build a country where a certain elite, group of elites, continue to fight for state power every 5 years, and alongside them, they drag the poor with them, such that if you're from the NASA extraction, you drag the poor that are from your region and tell them, we must capture this thing for your life to change. And whether you're from the Jubilee, you tell them, we must retain this thing. Otherwise, if so-and-so takes over, you will remain poor. You're telling people who are ordinarily, they don't have anything, that they're already poor, that something will be taken away from them. We must begin to ask the hard questions and say, how is it that we can build a country where people, when they are sick, our hospitals work? I went to school at a time where public schools were the thing to be proud of. We have already lost that. These are the things that the president keeps on saying. We must begin to ask of these critical questions, such that people do not see hope in people who ordinarily, even if were to get state power, will not change the lives of these people in any particular way. And that is why we are saying, let us engage. There are things, this feeling of exclusion that is being felt across maybe by NASA supporters. Is it exclusion because, you remember, Debarl, there was a research that was done, I think, early 2016. And at that time, Jakoyo, we were together in Parliament, if you do remember. And we were given the list of civil servants that are in government. And we were told the top 5 tribes, that is the Kalenjins, the Luos, the Kikuyus, the Luyas, and the Kambas, they consume almost 80% of civil service jobs. So which exclusion are we talking about? We are only talking about exclusion of the elite. And that is a problem. That
let's say from Herman Manyora, briefly, as we're winding up, briefly, and the Jakoyo Midiwo. That was a report from the National Cohesion and Integration
and
Integration Commission. Very briefly, your closing remarks.
You know what the Senator said? by the way, you know this guy on this show, he has gotten brighter and brighter. You know, he was,
yes.
His first election, I used to call him a test tube senator. Because
briefly, as we're winding up,
his first election was where this rigging was tested. The rigging was tested in Kericho. And I always told him, and he has matured.
He's matured.
So you need him here. But now let me tell you something, Debarl.
Very briefly, as we're winding up, sir.
IBC, as it were, can never unite this country. We have decided that it is not the right way to go. I am, you know, I am not in parliament now, so I am also in court. Some of the things in court now I can't discuss publicly. But I now know that IBC is accessible to all, not only Jubilee. Mm-hmm. I think even the NASA side, Raila Odinga has been on air saying there was no election in Siaya, Homa Bay, and everywhere. So let us just sit down and talk about IBC. Let us create another structure that may keep us together as a people. Number two, I really think the president must stop his intransigence. Stop talking like you don't lead all of us, because then the feeling of exclusion. I come from the NASA area, and I am so NASA. You must not allow our people to keep emotionally feeling, pulling away from the country, because that is what I see. People want war. People want to live, and they have nowhere to go. You, as the leadership of the state, you must try to do what you held the Bible to do. Keep people together.
Thank you. Keep people together.
Keep people together.
That's a good closing statement from you. Let's hear from Herman Manyora.
I think I want to join Jakoyo in urging our leaders to try and keep this country together for the sake of our children and future generations. Because really, at the end of the day, the things we are doing, I don't even envy the president. Trying to lead a country as divided as ours is not easy. As you talk about unity, it is a thing on his agenda. That must be the top thing to deal with. How do you put the country together after such a divisive election that has produced one side talking about legitimacy issues? Bring this country together. It will require that the president listens more to people like Cheruiyot and less to the like of those other hawks. I will not want to mention them. Some of them are my friends. It will also require the Jakoyo side to know that at least now we have a president. They'll have to live with it, but still struggle for what they are struggling.